The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. COVID-19 disrupted supply lines and it disrupted our lives. Now that the lockdowns are over, the lingering impact of the dramatic shifts in the workplace remain. During the pandemic, work from home became the rule. Many employees seized on the opportunity and many of them thrived. But they also moved away. Many of them moved far away. So far, in fact, that coming into the office became a remote possibility. The work from home practice was needed during the pandemic. Now it poses new challenges, says executive coach Ron Bremner. Going forward, remote work will fracture company culture. For leaders, Bremner continues, the new norm will be to manage in a state of chaos where there will be need to be remarkably innovative as you strive as a manager to create safe, productive, and effective workplaces. Key to navigating the changing dynamics of a disassociated workplace, says Bremner, will be to adopt an entrepreneurial mindset, a mindset of constant adaptation and continual improvement. I invited Ron Bremner to join me for a conversation that matters about post-pandemic leadership. Ron, great to have you on the show again. Nice to see you.
Stu, nice to be with you again.
You know, we know the pandemic, of course, turned our lives upside down, but it really has put a completely different kind of dynamic now on leadership. What are some of the key elements that leaders need to now be focusing on as they try to, navigate their way forward and build a company culture where everybody is working towards the same objectives?
Well, your intro was very interesting because I think I would only probably change one word, Stu, which is when you talk about the fact that it's going to be constantly a world of chaos. The only word that I would probably change is chaos, and I would make that into change, because the only constant that's going to be really constant in the future is change. Okay, that's the only consistency. And that's what leaders are going to have to deal with. But I think before we get into this, I think if I could just take a second, I think it's good for all of us to remember a basic in this discussion, and that is, what is a good leader? Okay, what are we talking about when we're talking about a leader? Because one of the things that the pandemic really uncovered for most companies, large and small, is that they suddenly found that they had a lot of managers, but very few leaders. And that was one of the basic underlying problems that was discovered in actually to the benefit of companies throughout the pandemic, okay? So when I think of a leader, I think of somebody who has an intense desire to lead, somebody who welcomes the responsibility of taking others on a very special journey. And this journey that we're talking about, when we're talking about building a company and we're talking about having success, the thing I want everybody to think about and to really ponder on is that success is not a destination. Success is a journey, okay? And to go on that journey with a good leader is to be in the hands of someone who has the mentality of a role model with a clear vision in their head about where they want to go. And that leader, and you've worked with them, and I've worked with them, and I've worked with the other kind, and you've worked with the other kind, okay? But a good leader, in my mind, inspires and motivates others to be the best they can be. They inspire people and motivate them to peak performance, okay?
So, Ron,
can
I ask you a question here? Because I continually hear people say, okay, you need to inspire others. But do you do it through, just communication, or is it by example as well? Because if you're just being rah-rah, is that actually leadership?
No. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but there's not one aspect that is really able to sum up exactly what a leader is. It's not about rah-rah, but it is about being a good communicator. It's not rah-rah, but it is about being a motivator. It's about being inspired. It's about being part priest, part cheerleader, part confidant. It's like when you go to the barber, you don't just get a haircut, you get therapy as well from many of them, okay? So it's a little bit of everything. But the bottom line is that a great business leader today, in my mind, is characterized by someone who's honest, someone who's truthful, and someone who deals with people in a straight up manner in all circumstances. But let me get to your question, which I think is a very, very important one, which is what are the keys to leadership today? And what is it that are the characteristics of good leaders? And I think one of the key things is authenticity today. Because this pandemic really caused people to look at their lives and look at their jobs and look at their world and their families in a whole different context that they've never looked at them before. And so good leaders today need to be able to state their core values and then to your point, need to be able to walk the talk as that role model on a consistent basis, not once in a while, not once a week, not once every management meeting, but we as people who follow leaders need to be able to look at somebody as a role model who delivers each and every day. They may have good days, they may have bad days, but they're not going to be different at their core on a good day or a bad day, okay? Their actions are going to match their words. And the big difference that we're finding between pre-pandemic and post-pandemic leaders is that there was a time when leaders never liked to admit that they didn't know everything. They had to be and wanted to be the smartest guy in the room or the smartest gal in the room, okay? But the good leader today in the post-pandemic world is ready to admit and show vulnerability. They're okay with the fact that they don't have all the answers. I tell people, I don't even know all the questions, never mind all the answers, okay? But leaders today admit they don't know all the answers. And quite frankly, the pandemic showed clearly that they don't know all the answers because they weren't ready with the answers when the pandemic hit. They were in that state of chaos that you talked about. Distribution channels were all, mixed up and people didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to communicate. How do we motivate at a distance when we're not close? Like how do we do these things, okay? So leaders have to be able to be comfortable today in asking their people for their help in solving the problems. Now, I never had a problem with that in my career because, as my dad used to say, I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible, okay? So it was very easy for me to be comfortable asking people for help because, quite frankly, I needed it, all right? I wanted to be able to surround myself with good, bright, smart people that were smarter than me, and it wasn't hard. So the result, though, it's an interesting dynamic when you think about it, because this ability to be able to admit that you're not so smart, that you're not the brightest one, that you don't have all the answer, really helps to be able to connect with people in a more humane way.
So,
Because
Ron,
it puts more, go ahead.
yeah, can I get you to hang on just for 1 second while we
Sure.
take a quick commercial break, and we'll just come back to this topic because I think it's an important one. We'll be right back. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So you were saying just before the break that that you have to have this willingness to admit that you don't know.
Right.
That's a big leap of faith that you're going to be accepted by the people who become part of your team. Because when you're trying to attract that team that you can truly trust, you are reaching out to people that you hope have exceptional capabilities. What do you have to do internally to be able to say, yeah, I'm confident enough in myself that I can actually tell you I don't know what the best path forward is on this particular challenge that we're facing?
The reality is the people are smarter than we always gave them credit for, okay? All of the people on the staff at whatever company I was privileged to run in the past were a lot smarter than a lot of the people that were on my management team gave those people credit for. I knew it. A few people knew it, but not everybody realized it, okay? But the reality is when you tell people, I don't have all the answers, I know anything, you know what? They already know you don't have all the answers. Just some people are better at covering it up, okay? That's the truth, all right? But what happens is, ironically, when you tell people, they're the foremost powerful words that I coach CEOs on are the following: I need your help. I need your help. When you use those 4 words with people, you automatically, immediately tell them that you value their input, that they're important, that you respect them, okay? And the ability to be able to be vulnerable and ask for help in a funny way lets people know that you've got the human touch. And as a leader, quite frankly, I want people to come to me with solutions, not problems. When I used to have people who come into my office and say, Ron, you got to talk, I need to talk to you because Jim is doing this and this and this and this and this. And they're looking at me for an answer. And I say, well, you know what, Bob? I'm going to be really interested to hear how you handle this. And they look at me like, well, that's why I'm here. So the overriding issue in this whole thing is that the one big thing that the post-pandemic era has to understand and know is that the leader of today has to be built around continuous learning. Okay? You have to keep learning about all aspects of life, of people, of relationships, of your job, if you're going to get better as a company. Because quite frankly, one of the other things I always say to people, no matter where they are, whether they're just coming into a job, a new job, an exciting job as a marketing director, HR director, or a CEO, what got you here won't get you there. This learning, the experiences that you had to get you to the level that you are today are not going to be the same skills, learning that are going to get you to the next level. You need to be continually learning. Now, here's a big advantage that people started to understand during the pandemic. When I was coming up through the ranks, if I wanted to hear a great motivational speaker or somebody who could really teach me about relationships or about whatever it might be, I had to fly to Toronto or fly to New York or wait till somebody came to Vancouver and go and pay $500 or $1,000 to hear this speech, okay, to hear them talk or to interact with them. Today, we are so lucky and so blessed because you can go on YouTube and you can hear some of the greatest speakers, the greatest motivators, the greatest teachers on any subject you name, and you can hear them for free. People who normally charge corporations $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for an hour speech, you can go and listen to them and play it again and again and again for free to learn and to grow and to develop. It's incredible. Okay.
So, Ron, I'll get you to take just one quick more second here while we take another break, and then we'll come back. And I want to ask you how, when we come back, how do we develop this relationship and connection with other people when so much of it is now being done remotely? We'll be right back. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So, Ron, just before the break, I was saying, how do we build this empathy, this connection with our team when we're not all in the same room any longer? Because, you know, one of the things that I remember and appreciate about you so much when I worked for you, when you were my boss, you made a point of coming around and actually acknowledging me, like, and not in just a offhanded, like, hey, way to go, nice to see you, keep up the good work. But you actually came to me like out of the blue. You were catching me doing things right at the right moment, and you would make a statement that was personalized to me. How do we do this now in a world where not everybody's in the office all the time?
Well, we do it by simply, first of all, recognizing you need to do it. Okay. Mm-hmm. In other words, So many leaders spend so much time working in the business that they don't spend enough time working on the business. One of the things that I always work with top executives on doing is to put an hour aside once a week. Might be 7 on a Thursday morning or 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, whatever it is, whatever time is most comfortable for them. And just think about strategic issues that they need to work on. Think about the big picture, not this project, not this file, not this phone call that they got, but looking at issues. And your most important thing you have in the company, in my opinion, are your people. Without your people, you're finished. Okay. And so the reason that I used to do that and walk around was I like to see you. I like to talk to people. I want to know what they're doing. I want to be able to develop a connection. And I want those people to feel respected and important and necessary, because it's so easy in today's workplace for people to feel disconnected. Even more so now, as you mentioned, because we're working remotely. So the leader today has to look for ways to be able to connect. So in other words, to be able to phone Stu on Tuesday and say, Stu, why don't you and I have a coffee online on a Zoom tomorrow at 11 o'clock for 15 or 20 minutes? I'd just like to catch up with you, okay? To be able to put a group lunch together to get people so that they can share and talk about things and how things are going. You need to find ways to do it, to leave voicemail messages for people, to do exactly, and by the way, I appreciate you even use the words I always used to use with people, is try and catch your people doing things right. So many times leaders are always looking for people and only want to talk to them when they screw up, when they have a problem, when things go wrong. We need to get in the habit of always catching people doing things right, okay? Little things, right? I never had this hit home more to me than when my younger boy was 7 years old and he came home with a test and he got 27 out of 30. And we talked for 10 minutes. And do you think we talked about the 27 he got right? Not a chance. We talked about the 3 he got wrong until finally he looked at me and he said, you know, Dad, we've been talking for a long time about all of the questions. The 3 of them I got wrong. You've never mentioned the ones I got right. And by the way, I was talking to Grandma last week and you weren't that good in school either. Okay. All right. So the thing is, we have to make connecting with people a priority in the post-pandemic. But we have the greatest tools that have ever been invented in the history of man to be able to do it. We have video calls, we have phones, we have cell, we have all of these things at our disposal to be able to help us connect in a way that we could never connect before. We have the ability to send somebody a little gift online if they're doing things, note cards. There's so many ways. So the problem isn't how do we do it? The problem is, do we take the time to do it? A professional, somebody once told me a pro is somebody who does the little things that nobody else wants to do when nobody's looking. Okay?
Yeah.
I really like that. Somebody who does the little things that nobody else wants to do or takes the time to do when nobody's looking, right? So it's a matter of mindset.
Okay, give me 1 second here for one last commercial break, and then we'll come back, because I want to, when we come back, I want to talk about, okay, yes, we've been looking at what do you do to bring out the best in your team, but I want to say, when you don't have like a war room necessarily, how do you pull the team together when you're now suddenly facing a challenge? We'll get to that just when we get back. We'll be back in a moment. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So just before the break, Ron, I said, okay, we've been looking at, the positive side. How do you build your team? And hopefully when you're doing that, you're going to be foreseeing challenges that come and making appropriate decisions to avoid those. But life throws us curveballs. And in a world where not everybody's in the office now, and you need to move rapidly and bring innovative thought, how, and this is where real leadership skills really show up, how do you bring that team together in the kind of workplace that is now pretty much norm for most organizations?
So the first thing you have to do, which happens over a period of time, you know, Stu, the reality is this. There's no elevator to success in any of these areas. You got to take the stairs one at a time, okay? It's hard work and it's hard slugging. But if you do the basics and if you communicate and if you build what is the most fundamental and important thing between people is trust, okay? If you have people's trust, it's amazing what you can accomplish, okay? So in the post-pandemic world, if you don't have everybody together, but what you can do is you can have signals to your leadership team that when a really important thing is going to come up, I am going to be asking you to drop everything for a half an hour to jump on a Zoom call with me with 5 or 6 of the leadership team or whatever. So if I email you the word ice cream, you know, drop everything because in 5 minutes we're going to get on a call. Okay.
And so you have to anticipate this in advance.
You have to anticipate, but you see, the ability to do what I was suggesting earlier, which is ongoing learning all the time, you are refining and sharpening and honing your skill sets in all areas, relationships, strategic planning, budgeting, all of these things are going to help you be in a better position to be able to anticipate these things. You know, if I go to football practice every day, I'm going to be able to anticipate more of what the guy on the other side of the line is going to do. Okay, why? Not because I'm any smarter, but because I've seen it, I've heard it, I've discussed it, I've been around it. Okay, and that's the way it works with people dynamics. Is the more you work at trying to get closer to people, understanding people, building trust, having empathy with people, helping them understand that you care about them. You really, there's an old saying, you can accomplish everything in the world you want if you help enough other people get what they want. It's not about getting what you want. It's about helping other people be the best they can be, and they respond. It's amazing, but you've got to take the time and make the time. Right?
It really does come down to that person-to-person dynamic, doesn't it? So I'm just about out of time, Ron, but and now you've already mentioned YouTube as being a great source of inspirational videos, but what are a couple of other resources that you would point people to who are looking for additional insights into how to navigate the workplace in a post-pandemic world?
Go to Chapters and get a book by Warren Bennis on becoming a leader. Okay, Warren Bennis, Bennis, one of the greatest leadership gurus. He passed away a couple of years ago. I was privileged to bring him out to Vancouver to speak back in 1990 at a broadcasters convention where he was getting 17,500 US an hour at that time. Okay.
Wow.
Warren Bennis on becoming a leader. He's written a number of books. He's terrific. Another guy you should read is John Maxwell, who wrote a great book, very easy to read, terrific book to always have beside you, called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He takes 21 different examples of things that can really help you be a better leader. Start with those two, and then start looking and going down and reading books on leadership, reading articles on leadership, subscribe to leadership things. Harvey Mackay, Mackay, has great monthly little things on leadership. If you want it bad enough, you can find it, okay? But you have to want it and you have to seek it. And don't wait for your ship to come in. Swim out to meet it. You got to go looking for this stuff.
You know, one other book that I can think of, Ron, would be The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. No?
A great, yes, a great book. In fact, I went down to Covey Institute for a week when I was a CEO of BCTV and spent a week on the mountain with Stephen Covey's people. And it was a phenomenal experience, okay? 5 days there and learning about leadership and learning about The 1 Minute Manager is another great book, okay? There's so many wonderful things to read. And you know what? Some of them you're going to connect with and some of them you're not going to connect with. But it's just like people that are hockey fans. Some games are better than others, okay? Yeah. But you know what? You got to keep coming back.
Well, that goes to your point about constant learning. To be an effective leader, I believe that there has to be that constant learning. Ron, unfortunately, we're out of time. It's a fascinating topic that is deep, deep, deep in so many different aspects. But thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Stu, anything I can do to help you in the future, I'm here for you. It was great.
Great. Thank you.